Morning, my name is Igor Skeerkogel, permanent delegate from the Free State.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Kanya Kwez. I'm a permanent delegate from Pomala. Thank you very much.
Morning, my name is Jablan Zimande, permanent delegate from Gauteng.
Morning, I'm Mandy Kese, the permanent delegate from Free State.
Good morning, my name is Solima Bebo, NCOP permanent delegate from the Northwest Province, Bokoni Bupiri.
Morning, Chair. Morning, honorable members and officials. My name is Mkolis Kaunda from KZN Permanent Delegate. I thought the other members will say they are temporal delegate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honourable members. And we'll go over to the officials for the introductions. Ms. Manana or Mr. Manamela, you're welcome to take the lead. So let's use there's a little button there. We will get our secretary to show you.
Okay.
Otherwise the recording doesn't work.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you, Honorable Chair and all the honorable members. It's Kibi Manana from the National Department of Transport, and I'm currently acting as DDG for public transport. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Chair and honorable members. Lisiva Manamela is my name in the Department of Transport and Chief Director of Public Transport Industry Development.
Thank you very much. Very welcome also then to our administration, Dr. Clark and Mr. Ntalini. Thank you very much. And Zoliswa at the back. Thank you very much, Zoliswa. She's not listening. Okay. Honourable members, let us proceed with the meeting because we have a full day today. There's lots of things happening on our agenda and we have lots of work to get through today. So once again, good morning and welcome. I want to thank you all for availing yourselves for what promises to be a significant and indeed a multifaceted engagement today. Today we turn our attention to three key transport reform areas that intersect deeply with the lived experience of millions of South Africans. The rollout of integrated public transport networks, IPTNS, the scrapping of illegally converted panel vans, and the implementation of downstream projects under the taxi recapitalisation program. I think each of these tell a story, not just of infrastructure and policy, but also of safety, dignity, access, and opportunity. The IPTN program, despite its potential to transform urban mobility, has been plagued by implementation delays, inconsistent performance across cities, and continued capacity constraints. Our oversight duty compels us as a committee to interrogate the reasons for these setbacks, but also to support interventions that aim to bring the program back on track. We also cannot ignore the implications of illegally converted panel vans still operating on our roads. Beyond being a regulatory and safety hazard, this undermines efforts to formalise and professionalise the minibus taxi sector. The department's update on progress here is vital, particularly in relation to enforcement and the implementation of public protector recommendations. Lastly, the taxi recapitalisation program's downstream projects present a unique opportunity, honourable members, not only for economic empowerment and modernisation of the industry, but also for meaningful localisation and inclusion. We are keen to hear how the department intends to scale pilots such as the automated fare collection, retail containerisation, and the LPG fuel conversions. This committee is not just here to note progress, we're here to demand accountability, ensure value for public money, and above all, ensure that the people we serve benefit tangibly from the policies and plans we deliberate on. So with that, without further ado, I think let's proceed into the briefing. Before we do it, are there any apologies, Mr. Ntalini? I'm sorry I skipped you.
Good morning, Chairperson and honourable members. We have received apologies of the following members. Honourable Briette, she's attending SC on education. Honourable Muimang, He's gonna join us later. He's attending Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. And the last one is Honorable Molokome. She's out of the country. Yeah, those are the apologies. And I've also been informed that the Deputy Minister will join us after 11. Thank you, Chair.
Good. You might catch the last bit of the meeting. So without further ado, let's start with your presentation, Ms. Manana.
The apology.
Honorable Peter also
Yes,
apologized.
yes. No, thanks, Chair. I wanted to propose that we put the adoption of the agenda, and I want to move for the adoption.
Thank you. That'll be the first time this year that we do it. So it's a new initiative. Are there any movers for the adoption of the agenda? Thank you very much, Honourable Kahunda. Are there seconder for the adoption of the agenda, please? Thank you very much, Honourable Nzimande. Our agenda is therefore formally adopted. And thank you very much for that brand new initiative that you are introducing to our committee proceedings. Right, with that homework done, let's give a chance to the officials to start their presentation. Thank you very much. It's over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I think we were already reflecting the presentation up front. We must just apologize that we just added one slide, which is at the end of the Taxi Recap Economic Empowerment Project, just reflecting what the next steps are going to be. But the presentation, as you have it, is the same as what we're going to be reflecting today. As Honourable Chair has indicated, our presentation is going to cover three elements: the integrated public transport networks, illegally converted panel vans, as well as the implementation of the Taxi Recap program's Economic Empowerment Project. Can we go to the next slide? On the IPTNs, I will cover just a brief introduction. We'll reflect on the implementation progress, some of the challenges, the interventions that we are currently implementing as a department, as well as planned ones that are upcoming, and then also conclude with the way forward. On the introduction, we're just highlighting that the program is a critical program because it seeks to transform our urban spatial form in making sure that there is integration and alignment between transport and land use planning. We're seeking to make sure that we have houses being built along our corridors, what we call transit-oriented corridors. We seek to make sure that we enhance mobility and access for poor communities, to transform the minibus taxi industry, prioritize universal accessibility, improve on safety, as well as the service quality that is being offered, promote modal integration, and maximizing effectiveness and efficiency of public transport services, and lastly, give effect to key policy goals in the different plans and policies that government has as they are highlighted. Looking at implementation progress, we are offering key performance indicators, various ones, and in this presentation, we're looking at the ridership numbers. We're highlighting out of the nine municipalities that are implementing IPTNs, that we're moving 44 million passengers, and the two municipalities that are still delayed are eThekwini and Msunduzi. We're hoping that they will be operational by 26-27, and that lastly, a key performance indicator as well within the grant is to look at when the services are offered, that on average, the services are offered between 5 o'clock and 21 hours. And it differs from city to city, like your city of Cape Town and your Ekurhuleni providing a service to the airport. They operate till 11 o'clock at night. Thank you. And this slide just highlights the different municipalities and on a map, just highlighting which 3 cities are still, or rather 4 that are still not in the program or haven't implemented. I highlighted Msunduzi and eThekwini, and in this slide we also then highlight that Mbombela and Buffalo City are still suspended. Can you move to the next slide? On accessibility, it is one of the only programs in the country actually that is making sure that there is accessible services offered. And the program then looks at making sure that vehicles are accessible, infrastructure is accessible, information, there's signage, and also we respond to customer services, or care rather, and that drivers along, the IPTN services receive annual training to make sure as well that they are responsive to customers. And we've also improved the working environment as well as cycling infrastructure to make sure that there's maximum accessibility for all passengers, whether it be people with disabilities, women, elderly people, children, and those accompanying children. Thank you. This slide just highlights the key challenges. Of course, there's a lot, but we just thought let's just bring out the main ones. Capacity to implement is still a challenge in local municipalities. What we have observed is an over-reliance on PMUs by municipalities, and some of the PMU members are not even appropriately skilled to support the municipality. Industry transition challenges are still one of the key impediments, and this is basically characterized by prolonged engagement and negotiations between the municipality as the contracting authority and the taxi industry or bus industry, where the stakeholders apply, and this also is affected by challenges around MBT, minibus taxi industry promotion or use, which then also impact on the IPTN program. As you will all know, industry is fragmented and there are infightings, within the associations, and this also then further delays the program. One critical thing around this challenge is really the poor management of vehicle operating companies that normally get established by the municipality, allowing the industry to be formalized. There's mismanagement and misuse of funds and wastage. We're observing that cities tend to over-specify and over-design infrastructure, and based on the demand estimations that they are making, which in most instances are not realistic, and there's also just poor management of infrastructure. And lastly, it's non-compliance with grant conditions. In response to some of these challenges, this is what the department is doing. We then developed an IPTN suite of offerings, and I will speak to this briefly on each one of them. But basically, these 9 interventions are what we are currently busy with. Can we go to the next slide? As indicated, we developed this. It's a guideline document that basically recognizes that we've got different municipalities, and therefore we need to come up with an approach that's fit for purpose. What may be fit in Ekurhuleni may not be necessarily fit in George, and therefore you will see that these are the different offerings. Like we're looking at that, we're saying IPTN program consists of a rail service, a BRT, a quality bus service, an enhanced conventional bus system, as well as transformed or new generation taxi programs. And these may apply, in different municipalities depending on what the needs are in each municipality. And therefore, this program is also accompanied by what type of infrastructure you then implement. What may be implemented in Rustenburg may not be the same as that may be implemented in Cape Town, for example. In terms of operations, in certain municipalities there may be less frequencies. In others, you may have more frequencies. In certain municipalities, especially rural areas, you find that maybe certain services are periodic services rather than scheduled service along the day. So basically, that it's one intervention that we are currently implementing. And can we go to the next slide? The next one is really the management of the grant in line with the Division of Revenue Act. We continue to withhold grant funds. We stop. We've only suspended 2 municipalities, and to a large extent as a result of persistent non-compliance. And there have been forensic investigations undertaken in three or four municipalities. And and so our role then would also be to make sure that the recommendations of those forensic investigations are adopted by City Council and are implemented. And we then have to follow up with the municipality to make sure that there is no repeat of most of those findings. Some of the grant reforms that we've also introduced is we've basically moved the grant to be more performance-based and incentivized for performance. Currently, I think we only had 5% of the grant going towards incentives for better performance. We are busy increasing that over a 3-year period from 5% to 30%, where we are incentivizing better performance. And also we're setting up thresholds for those areas that we have found to be problematic, where we're experiencing that there's no better value for money, and also we're introducing transversal contracts. We've already started with a transversal contract for bus procurement with Treasury. It was already released, and it's looking at diesel as well as electric buses, and we will be introducing more transversal contracts. We're also facilitating peer learning workshops and city-to-city peer reviews. Every year we have these peer review sessions where all municipalities attend and all municipalities present, and other cities then are able to evaluate as well as give other cities feedback. We conduct deep dive sessions with Treasury and ourselves. Even the peer review sessions, Treasury attends as well as the City Support Program. And then we also run annual operational workshops. And lastly, we also then conduct bilateral city-to-city peer reviews. Like a particular city that is good, we will then partner them with another city where we arrange a session and they then learn from each other. We've also bolstered our monitoring capacity. We've appointed a technical expert advisory team as well as a grant monitoring team in 2023. And they're assisting us in different ways. They're also then assisting us to develop tools to improve our monitoring capability. The next slide just highlights one monitoring tool that we have now, and basically it's city-based. It would look at different KPIs. We would look at passengers. We would look at KPIs within the operational environment. We look at financial sustainability KPIs as well as delivery. And basically this then assists us to track city performance and identify any issues, red flags that may come up, and so that we are then able to respond on time. Next slide. We're also conducting a vehicle operating company reviews and development program based on the experiences that we've had in two particular cities with Piotrans in Joburg and Nelson Mandela Bay. We've now decided to be more hands-on because we're finding that contracting authorities, which are municipalities, are sometimes hands-off. And so as a department, we're conducting a current state assessment of all VOCs in the country, and so that then can assist us to develop an incubation program. Because these VOCs are contracted for a 12-year period, and what we're finding is then come year 11, when now the city is supposed to go on a new contract, then the VOC will claim that we have not been empowered. So we are introducing periodic assessments over the 12-year period to make sure that empowerment does take place, and that come year 12 or year 11, the VOC feels more confident to then be contracted in the next stage in line with the NLTA. We have done an IPTN review process where basically that is informing a lot of the interventions that we're currently making, and Yeah, so yeah, that's that. Can we go to the next slide? And at the same time as well, we are realizing that we need to assess cities. We've already done 3 assessments in not 3 assessments, actually, a number of assessments in different municipalities. We started in Mangaung, followed by Polokwane, and the month of May, we've been busy with Gauteng municipalities. Today, actually, the team is in Tshwane, and basically the aim is to understand why there are delays, what can we do to improve, and therefore even look at the capacity of the municipality. And followed by this assessment, we then are also developing an intervention program where we're looking at deploying intervention teams to assist these underperforming municipalities and also start to build internal capacity where required. Okay, next slide. These are interventions that are planned and I mean in line with the green transport strategy and our commitments as a country to the climate change convention and other applicable legislation. We are incentivizing decarbonization within public transport. We're looking at in the future setting targets within the grant framework that municipalities must then comply with in terms of zero emissions, transitioning to zero emissions. We're looking at electric bus fleet guidelines. We've already started with municipalities, certain municipalities, where we did a workshop on doing a pre-feasibility study for introducing electric buses. As I indicated, transversal contracts, we've started with the bus one, and we will be moving to an automated fare collection one and other areas as we have identified within the grant framework. We are also continuing to build knowledge products and guidelines to guide cities. And one area that we are also finding as an area that we need to look at is the improvement of minibus taxis initiatives. How, as part of the IPTNs, we need to look at that. And we're working quite closely with our colleagues in public transport industry development on how we can partner and collaborate on that. And lastly, it's really, and also on improvement of initiatives, for example, of MBT initiatives, we've partnered with Treasury already to develop a communities of practice on minibus taxi industry. And that is attended largely by municipalities. I think in future we will be bringing in provincial partners as well. And lastly, we also will be setting up a communities of practice on value engineering to make sure that cities don't just build over-specified and over-designed infrastructure items. Way forward, the minister has directed that we look at overhauling our public transport grants. So a grant review to repurpose these grants is underway. And one of the key steps under this review is to consolidate the public transport network grant as well as the public transport operations grant. The network grant goes to municipalities and the operations grant goes to provinces. And we will be consolidating and integrating to make sure that we improve efficiencies and stop wastage. We are also going to be enforcing the directive to municipalities to scale down on infrastructure, because what we're finding, because of the grant being largely an infrastructure grant, cities tend to focus more on building infrastructure rather than being concerned about operating and delivering services. So we want them to operate and build later, rather than focusing more on infrastructure upfront. And also just making sure that differentiated approach that I referred to is implemented, phasing out BRTs and moving more to quality bus services, and where rail then being the backbone of public transport. And lastly, to also then develop capacity across national provinces and municipalities. Chair, this is the end of this presentation on the IPTN. I don't know if I should stop, we take questions, or whether I should proceed to the illegal panel vans.
I think continue with the whole presentation and then we can engage on all three afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. On the illegally converted panel vans, we've got 2,352 converted panel vans. And 436 of those were retrofitted exactly, and about 1,916 were considered for scrapping. And out of that 1,916, 1,243 were linked to an operating license, so they were not illegal, and 673 were then found to be illegal. Of the 1,916, 1,243 had a valid operating license, as I indicated earlier on. 650 have been scrapped. 593 are still outstanding. The 673 that were not linked to an operating license do not qualify to be scrapped. And therefore, when you then look at the total picture, you take the balance left of those that are legal together with those that are illegal. We're standing at 1,266. The department did promulgate this gazette, and in the gazette, the date that was given was 31st January 2023, where all illegal panel vans basically should have been surrendered for scrapping. And post-scrapping process, the department is just highlighting here that we have complied with the recommendations of the public protector to remove illegally converted vans. We did this through a government gazette, and this was not just only gazetting, but that there was also an effort from the department side to send SMSs to all the affected vehicles, informing them that they need to surrender their vehicles for scrapping, and those that have not been surrendered, basically they have been admin marked and therefore cannot be legally operated on our roads. And we are in discussions with our road branch as well as Road Traffic Management Corporation to make sure that these vehicles are then impounded by law enforcement. Okay. Moving to the taxi recapitalization program. I think this slide just gives background in terms of the program, that we then had the revised taxi recap program commencing in March 2019, and a number of economic empowerment projects were then identified to accelerate the transformation of the minibus taxi industry. To date, we have scrapped 90% of vehicles through the program during the 24-25 financial year. Can I just clarify that the 90% is the vehicles that were submitted for scrapping? That's important. So we're not saying 90% of the whole program. Just every year, the vehicles are submitted for scrapping. So 90% of that number that was submitted in 24-25 were scrapped. And we've started with piloting a number of economic empowerment projects in 24-25, and we're hoping to do this for the next 3 years. And the aim really is to make sure that we look at diversifying the industry rather than just focusing on only one form of income, but that they then look at other ways of diversifying their income streams. And there are about 5 economic empowerment projects that we've piloted, and we'll discuss each one of them now. The first one is the containerized retail solution. This is just a picture of how the retail containers look like, and basically within those containers, the spares are being sold, and also training is offered to associations through an incubation program by TRSA. And as you will see that the program, because it's a container, it then allows for portability. Depending on where the demand is, you can then move that container there, and that we are looking at rolling out additional containers nationally. And within the container, this slide just highlights what is within the container, and that there is basically stock that is sold, and TRSA is assisting in making sure that containers are fully stocked. and that also they are sold at wholesale prices. Training and development of staff on retail and stock replenishment is also provided. There are operating processes, manuals, and marketing and promotional material, and signage is also provided. There's also a cash management solution. Currently, we are piloting in 6 areas, largely in Gauteng, in those different areas, as well as, I think it's in Mpumalanga, where we've rolled out the different containers. And the intention is to roll out more in other provinces as well. The automated fare collection economic empowerment project, it basically is looking at moving from a cash to a cashless fare collection, and commuters are able to then use their EMV compliant cards as well as cards that may be issued. And also, this is good in the sense that with that particular card, a passenger can also then use the same card on the IPTN system, because these cards comply with the AFC regulations that the National Department has, and it seeks to also just make sure that as part of formalization of the taxi drivers, there are also all these other value-added benefits, and there's also empirical data to support transport planning and inform commuter subsidization model because of the data that is collected through these cards. And it also assists in terms of centralized income and expenses management for the operators and promotes a cashless environment. The pilots are activated in 2 areas, one in Cape Town and one in Welkom, and we're hoping to then also increase the footprint in other provinces. The Virtual Association mobile app, it's called Sihamba, and basically this app has got different modules, and the first one really is looking at improving communication between the taxi leadership as operators as well as its members, and modernizing communication within the association. And it has got potential as well for the department to also use it for communicating with the industry in the future. For now, that module has not been activated as yet. So also another module that could be brought in is one where commuters are also brought in and they're able to use the same app. It has got value-added services as well as other e-commerce benefits. And these slides are just highlighting the user experience and feature, where within an association you are able to input data on your driver's license, your vehicle, and all the information that is required, as well as income and expenditure, as we highlighted, where then operators are able to track what income is coming in the association and how much they're spending. Currently, it's been deployed in 14 associations, largely in Gauteng, and as well as 1,200 individual users who have also been onboarded as drivers as well as operators. The alternative fuels economic project, it's not doing very well, I think, because of some perceptions around gas. It is one area that we have highlighted that we would need to put in more effort, but also I think as an attempt to move towards low emission and zero emissions, we're also exploring e-buses as well, but it's something that it hasn't really taken off quite well. And the next slides are just highlighting, how the gas tank is fitted within the vehicle, and also the infrastructure options that are available. And lastly, that we have basically, we're piloting this in 7 areas, 5 in Hebron, and 1 in Springs, and 1 in Wawikta Taxi Association. In Okay, then. And then lastly, the 24-hour retail and service centers. This is also doing very well, and basically it's seeking to make sure that your backyard mechanics are able to thrive and that you continue to provide a service beyond, just normal working hours, like during non-operational hours, and it's also creating beneficiation of the value chain for the industry. And we're piloting this largely in the Western Cape, and as the pictures are highlighting, and only 2 pilots in Cape Town. And in terms of we go to the next slide. In terms of the way forward, we are intending to pilot each of these projects nationally, ensuring that at least 1 pilot for all economic empowerment projects in every province. This is the last slide that I was indicating, honorable members, that we added, and one minister requested that we highlight this. And that also, as part of the grant review that we highlighted earlier on, we will also be consolidating the taxi recap funding into the public transport grants, and we will explore ways to reduce the high refinancing cost for new taxi vehicles. This is an area that the minister is a priority for her. And even though at this stage we're still exploring, we can't say this is how it will work. The modalities are still under discussion, and I'm sure when we are ready, the minister will then come to make a presentation to the select committee. Chairperson, thank you very much. This is the end of our presentation.
Thank you very much. It's done in very good time. Honourable members, it's now your turn to engage the presentation. There's, as you've noticed, there's 3 different sections. So maybe just if you've got questions under a specific section, just maybe allude to which section you're referring to make it easier for the officials to answer the questions. So we'll do the questions on a question and answer basis, because we do have a bit of time. Fastest fingers first. Who wants to go first? Honourable Skierkogel, Honourable Zamande, Honourable Pilu, Honourable Treza, Honourable Makasini. All of you. Okay, brilliant. Let's start with Honourable Skierkogel.
Thank you, Chair. Do you say we're going to do question, or do I ask everything and then they'll respond?
Yeah, I would ask your set of questions, and then we'll get the officials to respond, and then we'll go to the next honourable member's questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, President. I think its presentation is well prepared because there's not a lot of trick questions that I want to ask. My first goes to slide 5, where you were speaking about building houses next to your corridors. Where? Why? What are your successes? What is your implementation? I just would like to find out about that, because when the South African Railways was working, like there's a lot of houses next to the stations and it was actually working. So I just want to find out about that. Then on question slide 6, it's about you showed some numbers between Nelson Mandela and Mangaung. What is the reason why Mangaung has more passengers than Nelson Mandela? Because if I speak under correction, Nelson Mandela Bay is way bigger than Mangaung. So what is the challenges there? Then I'll go back to slide 3. I'm still with the IPTN. According to when we did an oversight last year with this community to Durban, it was said that on the 20th of January of the Durban Goes, C1P3 would have been finished. The next one was the 30th of April was C1P4. Why have they not been completed? Then I want to go to the taxis. Has the department taken any measures to trace these 1,266 remaining illegal panel vans, as opposed to having a passive approach and waiting for these vehicles to still be used and then be a danger for South Africans and the passengers? Then I want to go to I think it's project 3 with the containers. On slide, I'm on slide 30, you mentioned some of the current active containers, and I assume most of them are within government-owned spaces. But have you looked at any way of where private people come to you and say, I have this piece of land, you can establish a transport hub here? Because we know that with apartheid, with the spatial planning that has been set up, and now moving forward, a lot of these taxi ranks are still the same taxi ranks areas that were used during apartheid, and people have to sometimes walk 2-3 kilometers to them had we looked at those private partnerships. Then on slide 34, we're going into the automated fare collection. I am from Welkom, and I do not recall anybody have ever mentioned this. I might not know, but I do work in that area. You don't really need to respond. All that I want for these two pilot projects, can we get a full report on data? How many people are using it? How many taxis? Just a full report. You can give that in writing. I don't need that today. And then the last one is slide 35. You did mention that there's not too many people. I looked at the numbers, not too many people using the app. What kind of marketing have you been doing that to ensure? Because I know that a lot of these IPTNs are not getting operational because they're struggling with taxi associations and stuff like that. Would this app not actually be something that could boost their economy and get them online? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Very good time management, Honourable Skeerkogel. Over to you. Thank you very much, Ms. Banana.
Thank you, Chair. We'll start from the top on transit-oriented development. So from our side, we've worked with Treasury on this because municipalities were required to develop what we call built environment performance plans. And that basically looks at transforming the spatial, makeup of municipalities. Currently, where you have the Department of Human Settlements building houses far away from where public transport is, we're trying to make sure that at a municipal level, houses are built within the existing public transport corridors. That will go a long way in terms of making sure that our services are affordable, and you then also maximize on what they called seat replacement, rather than what we have where services are only offered in the morning and in the afternoon, where people are staying far away, for example, from Soshanguve, then they go into Tshwane. But if you've got, and it's a long distance service, but if you've got human settlements along those corridors, then you maximize your efficiencies and seat replacement. So, for example, in Joburg, they had what they called corridors of power, of freedom, whatever corridors. Mangaung is also in Mangaung, Tshwane. So most of the metros were actually required to look at take one corridor and then pilot it to make sure that there is houses built within that particular corridor. We have not done very well because largely it's this issue of two different departments, whether it be transport and human settlements within a municipality, not really talking to each other. It's one area that we really need to improve on, despite all the different plans, like even the integrated urban special development framework is highlighting that this needs to be done. But this is not translating into a practical thing on the ground. So we need to look at how then do we make sure that it yields those benefits. And then on the issue around passenger numbers, yes, Mangaung just was recently launched. They launched their services, I think, last year. And they actually are moving more passengers than Nelson Mandela Bay, largely because Nelson Mandela Bay has suspended their services. There was one time where they were not operational due to vehicle operating company challenges within the municipality. The city had to then stop services, and now they currently have, they're administering. It's an intervention by the city where it's an administration of the vehicle operating company. They've taken over, and they basically are paying the employees within the VOC. They are operating the services. So it's now, still stabilizing, and we'll see the numbers going up. C3 as well, Go Durban C1 package, work package 3 and package 4. I think largely because we cut funding, we stopped, withheld money. God, yeah. eThekwini has a tendency to, it's one of those cities where, as I said earlier on, there's too much focus on building infrastructure and not operating. And as a department, we've raised concerns with that approach. This started in 21 already with the city where we actually instructed them to stop building infrastructure. And I think you keep on telling the city, stop building, focus on infrastructure, and then they continue building. And so until this year, Minister then met with the mayor, took a decision and said, Mayor, you have to operate, and we're not going to be giving you any more additional funding until ourselves and you find each other on the operational model that you are seeking to implement. And basically, that's why then there hasn't been any movement on that. We are finding each other. We have been meeting with the city, and one of the, also through the presidential eThekwini working group, they have submitted to us outstanding projects under C1, and we are busy verifying them as a department. We have agreed that we will then release that funding based on our verification outcome. And our target is to have done that by this Friday, effectively. Taxis, any measures to trace? I think this is the illegal vans. You want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. What happened through you, Chair, was that all these illegally converted panel vans were admin marked. Now, what that means is that they were identified on the system and they were marked. There's a process that Inatis does. Now, you can't get a license for that. Once it is admin marked, you can't even pay for the license, meaning that it can't be on the road. The 1,266, the service provider called them, we traced them, we called them to bring their vehicles, but they couldn't, they didn't come. But because it is admin marked, the vehicle cannot be on the road. That's why they were given an opportunity to bring for scrapping. Remember, the opportunity based on the public protector was that because it was not their fault, scrap the vehicle, but at least pay them compensation through tax recap. That was the process that was opened. They didn't take that opportunity, and when the minister gazetted the cut-off date of 31 January 2023, they forfeited that opportunity to be paid, and those vehicles cannot be licensed. So if the vehicle is found on the road, it will not be having another license, it will be impounded. In fact, they are coming out now because we are told that admin mark, if you have got 2 or 3 taxis, you can't pay license for the other 2 if you have not paid for that one. Now you have to come. Now it has to be taken off the system. So technically, of course, we know people can break the law. Technically, those vehicles cannot be on the road because they don't have licenses to. Container, we agree in terms of upscaling. The taxi industry currently is focused on associations. These containers are put on taxi ranks to be nearer to associations who will support it. But as a way of upscaling it, yes, we will look at broadening up, not only selling for the taxi association, even people around, they can access. It ties up with that 24 hours, they call it the technical, township automotive hubs. It's something that is being considered, but for now it is based on taxi ranks for support. The Velcom will provide the data because it was a pilot for a certain period. We do have the data for that. Marketing the app, even with the app, currently it focuses on associations. It is accepted by associations. It is moving slowly. Yes, the issue of marketing and communication, because for now, the module that is working is between the association and its members. And some associations accepted the app. We're still marketing to make sure that it is upscaled. But yes, when other modules are working, it will be expanded.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Welcome to Honourable Moimang. So you're coming in. Thank you for making it. We'll give you a chance. There's a list of questions to be asked, but you're in the list. So we'll give you an opportunity just now. Honourable Mabebo, you were next, I think. Or was it Honourable Nzimande? Honourable Nzimande, you're welcome to continue.
Not thank you, Chair. Yeah, I know it's GNU mentality. That's on the lighter note. I will avoid Chair to talk about Echegweni because there is a vision about that, but maybe the former mayor will talk to it.
Sorry, I was just going to, I don't want to interrupt you, but honourable members, just remember we have a full session planned for Go Durban. It's coming up in the next month or so. We're just waiting for availability from the minister. We've asked for her office because we need her in that meeting. So maybe you want to keep your powder dry for that meeting on the Go Durban subject. If you just, that's a heads up. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
All right, thanks. No, the first question is in relation to transforming the taxi industry. That obviously, if you transform something, you need to consider a number of factors that are affecting that industry. It's not only a question of regulation. The first important point is non-assistance or unequal assistance that the state has been providing between buses and taxis in relation to subsidy. Is there anything on card, obviously, if you want to transform taxi industry, that talks to increase or initiate the issue of taxi subsidization? That's one aspect. Then the second aspect then deals with the issue of slide number, I guess it's 12, where you speak of forensic investigation. Or the only thing that one is interested about, the nature of those cases that are subjected to forensic investigation. Then the next part, Chair, are those taxes that were scrapped and those that obviously on the panel vans, and those that really were reluctant to come. Is that not the case that the reason is that the value that is attached to as a compensation could have taken them off or out of the business? Can it not happen that it was too little in such a way that they believe it's one of the ways to take them out of business in promotion to other mode of transports which are used or which are for the previously advantaged? The next point, Chair, is whether there has been quantification or a study done on the impact of electric bus fleet introduction. Impact in relation to some companies that have been employing some people in terms of the number of employment, because the problem the country is facing is that a lot of people are unemployed. The impact of this to employment, what is it, whether really it's not going to also add more challenge. The last question, Chair. The last question relates to what the previous speaker was asking, but it's in a different form. Why the so-called illegal converted panel vans were licensed from the beginning? Why? What happened for you now to chase it after the initial stages? Because obviously, if it was illegal, they were illegal even from the initial stage. Why were they licensed? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Nzimande. The time management was not so good this time, but I think the questions were taken aboard. Thank you very much to our officials.
Okay, maybe let me start with the simple ones. My TTG will take the difficult ones. The funding, I think the last slide, Chair, deals with the plan to look into the funding of the taxi industry. We are currently developing a subsidy policy, which is going through the process. That going forward, subsidy, because subsidy is for the users, not operators. We need to change the model currently where we're talking about rail subsidy, bus subsidy, taxi subsidy. It should be subsidy for the, irrespective of the mode that they use. That's what is going into the subsidy policy. But as the last slide shows, currently the only type of funding that the taxi industry is the capital subsidy through scrapping. And as the Minister has indicated, we're doing work around that because it is also too little to assist them in terms of to finance. I think this last slide on the second bullet where the Minister said, let's look at options that are available to assist the taxi industry in terms of financing cost. She calls it the de-risking of financing. So that is the work that we are doing, but it will go along with the future policy initiative that we are taking as a department to say, let's look at, once you have corrected the environment in terms of modes that operate, subsidy must then benefit the users irrespective of the modes that they use. So that is in the pipeline, which is what we are doing currently. The scrapping, if I understood the honourable member correctly, the scrapping value of the illegal panel vans, we were following the public protector's remedial action, which said, because some of those people who converted, who were using converted panel vans, didn't know that they were buying illegally converted vans. Because when you find it on the floor, it looks like a taxi. So although it was illegally converted, the owner didn't know because you had a collusion between the manufacturer, the OEMs, people who were converting and so forth. Someone goes on the floor and buys this. And they said, while you scrap this vehicle, at least compensate those people who bought these vehicles, although they were illegal, because there was an argument where it was said, why would you want to compensate somebody who's operating an illegal converted vehicle? And then the public protector said, at least, although some did buy this vehicle knowingly, but because we will never know, let's give them an opportunity to be compensated through the scrapping allowance, which is currently is in the region of 160,000. So technically, they were compensated, not necessarily paid back for what they spent on the vehicle. Reason why they didn't come forward, there are a number of reasons. Maybe, as you are saying, some felt that compensation is not sufficient, but I think they would have compared that with the risk of losing everything, because currently now the vehicle will be scrapped, impounded, scrapped, and you won't even get a cent. So in our when we were doing the consultation and trying to call them, we found that most, even those that had operating license at that time, the vehicles were no longer having operating license. Some of them didn't operate those vehicles. So there were a number of reasons why they didn't come forward. And then the last one, why were they illegally converted? It was a gap that the public protector picked up in the system, the collusion between officials, OEMs, and then in the report, it was said there needs to be a process where you close the gap so that there's no gap going forward. Because there's very clear distinction between a normal vehicle based on what they call the VIN numbers and a panel van. So it's easy to close on the system that it doesn't happen again. But as you would know, the collusions and fraudulent activities will always happen. But for now, the system has been designed that it will be it can close that loophole.
Okay, done.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. Then on the two issues. Forensic investigations, the nature of cases. So we'll start with Mangaung. So in Mangaung, there was misuse of funds with regard to infrastructure. For example, variation orders, and also bus procurement, where a bus that's worth 5 million was sold at 8 million because of middle persons. So those were the two in Mangaung. In Polokwane, it was buses as well, bus procurement, where payment was done up front and the buses were not delivered. Not all the buses were delivered. And then Nelson Mandela Bay, also misuse of PTNG funds. Lastly, Rustenburg, in Rustenburg, largely infrastructure as well, where people are paid, but show the infrastructure is delivered or there are variation orders. So the trend is largely around infrastructure and buses. You do find that in some instances, though, that we don't have any forensic investigations in that, where municipalities also use PTNG funds to pay for electricity, water, and other things. Okay, and then on the impact of the benefits of electric, of basically transitioning to low emissions or zero emissions fleet. I think largely the studies that have been done, benefits are largely more within operations. We'll take a practical example in Cape Town. GABS has introduced as piloted e-buses, and how they've dealt with the loss of jobs is reskilling, where they take the very same employees, they are now reskilled and they receive training. And in other countries, they've looked at other job opportunities that come up, or other opportunities that are coming up with transitioning to EVs, and that largely then you would then reskill people to make sure that they are able to then participate in that. It is a challenge that the Green Transport Strategy, we're currently reviewing the Green Transport Strategy in the department together with the transport plan that's part of the Just Energy Transition. It's an area that as a department we are mindful of, that we need to look at in the plan to make sure that then we don't have unintended consequences in what we are seeking to do. I think those are the two issues, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable, who was next? Was Mabebe was next. Honourable Mabebe, and then it was Honourable Kweza.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, you go first.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. It sounds like the department had to wait for for the lack of a better word, a crisis to happen before they acted in terms of the scrapping of these panel vans. What were the financial implications for it? And to what extent have you had investigations, outcomes for the frontline staff at the licensing department who allegedly altered information on the NRT system, thus opening the system to manipulation and fraudulent activities? The second issue, Chair, pertains to the same, transforming the taxi industry. How are your safety concerns as a department geared at ensuring the impoundment of these Toyota panel vans does not camouflage the root causes of the conversions themselves? Because you remember that in terms of the things that you consider in transformation is the historical issue of a disadvantaged nation or a disadvantaged groups in South Africa. So how do you then bring to the fore the issues of the root causes that pertain to why were they compelled to exchange, and how do you address that without disempowerment of the taxi owners and therefore the community, the commuters themselves, and whether you have democratic participation in terms of ensuring that the communities themselves are directly involved in what you are doing, you know, in terms of decision-making process, public participation, and so forth. That they often communities, they just find things happening without their knowledge from departments. The other issue is a very, if you like, straightforward issue. Is the issue of, but it was raised by Honorable Skiel Kocher. Do you have a feasibility study as to, in relation to the establishment of the localization of retail containers, the jobs that will be created in that space for youth? I know in my province it has passed the 40% check. And Chairperson, in my province, I'm jealous now. It was not mentioned. It was only mentioned in slide 30 in this presentation only. And therefore, it compels me to ask whether you have plans.
This is your last question.
Which is my last question. Whether you have plans to actually have corridors along the route between Tshwane and Ngangala district, because you have a lot of commuters that are there from your Tembisile Ani into Dr. J.S. Moroka, into all those areas of Ngangala. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Preza, for your reasonably good time management.
Thanks, Chair. Feasibility study on the establishment of localization of containers. As we pilot, we learn. I think, as I said, Chair, the initial objectives of the containers is to empower the industry to be self-sustainable. An association comes and say, yes, we will want to have this. As a start, the container is put on that association's rank so that it is supported by the users. But as the honorable member said, I think it was also asked, the idea is that once it is supported, it should then grow if it's supposed to be self-sustainable and serve the local communities. So even on job creations, for now, it is those people who work in your queue marshals. The idea is that they should be able to work and, of course, employ the local people to manage and man those containers. As we're taking note as we learn. In terms of expanding, yes, I think in the presentation it was indicated that although for now most of those containers are piloted in Gauteng, the idea is that for each of these, once we should pilot in each province, because provinces differ. It might be successful in Gauteng, and then in Mpumalanga you might have to do it the other way. So that's what as we're going to do the national rollout, we'll look at that. Scrapping of panel vents and the financial implications and frontline staff. Maybe just in short to indicate that we were implementing the public protectors remedial action, and in that report there was the remedial action that has to be done by national provinces, because remember the issuing of operating licenses, provinces, of course we do monitor that. And one of the recommendations was that there should be investigation in terms of how were the leakages at provincial level, which was done by provinces as PREs. And then there were also remedial actions for OEMs themselves, your Toyotas, how this happened, because in short, what happened was that when you do a conversion of a panel van and you convert it to become a passenger carrying vehicle, it becomes cheaper. And that's why people were duped into buying those. But it is unsafe, which is in the report, it was indicated that that practice must stop. OEMs must no longer try to convert vehicles that were not originally designed to carry passengers. So there were some remedial actions that provinces has to deal with those that were colluding, your officials, investigations. So each sphere of government was given a task to do, and there were investigations to look at the gaps. Transforming the industry, safety concerns, so that the impounding of those illegally does not now camouflage the operation of the taxi industry. I think the system that we are using now is just to make sure that only those who didn't use the opportunity to come forward will be targeted through the admin marking. It's not a general application of the law. What happens is that you identify those affected vehicles, they are admin marked, and that vehicle cannot come back on the road, because if it comes back on the road, it will not be having a license. So the impounding will be purely on the basis of contravening the Road Traffic Act of operating a vehicle that doesn't have a license. We don't think that it will be used to do general impoundment. Other impoundment is if you don't follow what is in the Road Traffic Act, the law. But we don't believe that this can be used to really target empowerment of the local. Yeah, I think I've tried to generally high level touch on the response, unless under what? Moloto. Is it Moloto rail?
Public transport
Are you covered there, Teresa? Sorry, did you answer all your
I
questions?
might have missed that.
Yeah, and for what plans we have for
Which one did you miss?
any public transport from
We miss Mpumalanga, Chair, the Moloto Road corridor.
that is still to be made because between Tshwane, your Dr. J.S. Moroka Temsile into Nkangala district.
That's what we...
Because Chair, there are many fatalities in that road. It's a congested atmosphere. It's a cause for concern. The department should be able to prioritize that within their priorities, particularly from these 4 years of administration.
The Chair, there's what I think we have presented a number of in different forums, the Moloto Development Corridor, which had an aspect of future consideration of rail, if it can be feasible to do that. But currently, in terms of operations, to improve on the bus side, the bus contract, but it is also tied up with the expansion of the road, which is what Sandral has done over the years. So that Moloto Development Corridor project has been going on. I think the issue of the expansion of road happened. It's still proceeding through Sandral. From the Gauteng side, in terms of operations, there's a process where they are looking at improving the bus side in terms of issuing a new contract for the current operations to be able to use safe buses, new contract, which is a program that Gauteng province as a contracting authority is dealing with currently.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Deputy Minister Klengwa. Minister, would you like to make some comments now, or would you like us to do the questions first and then you can make some comments afterwards?
Chair, thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning, honourable members. I hope you had received my apology. I was appearing before the Portfolio Committee, and quite interestingly, a matter that they've substantively raised is the one that we are dealing with here today, and I've requested that we'll go and present. So I hope that the team has presented, and I'm pretty certain capably and ably so. So we will take questions from there. But I can just indicate on the Lotto Road project that it's obviously ongoing. And part of the issue is that the reduction of fatalities and accidents on that front is a priority for the department and our entities and RTMC. I'm pretty, and you would have seen the Easter weekend numbers, part of the work that we do, whilst the Mpumalanga registered an increase, but on overall spectrum, we have registered a decline, but subsequently we've got areas of challenge. So what I can indicate on the perspective of road fatalities, I've already met with both the MECs responsible for either transport and safety in Mpumalanga with the RTMC. The next phase now is to bring in the entire province, including municipalities working with SALGA, on law enforcement and traffic law enforcement, on the key pillars of visible policing, patrolling, consequence management, the pooling and sharing of resources. Working with the RTMC, we are going to be adding additional support to Mpumalanga and the Eastern Cape and the Free State. As you will know, the National Traffic Police are largely housed in Gauteng, and so there's a cost process that we have to do about the radius of deployment, and we have agreed with the RTMC on a 150-kilometer radius from Gauteng, which will greatly benefit the province of Mpumalanga. So whilst there are issues around busing, there are issues around infrastructure development, we are also plugging in on the issue of road safety because that ecosystem problematic. Lastly, Chair, is to obviously indicate that the congestions on those roads, particularly in Mpumalanga, amongst others, are compounded by the fact of the high levels of trucks that you have. I'm sure that if you were to undertake a committee oversight visit to Gusile Power Station, you will find that it is constructed deliberately on top of a coal mine, with the expectation that there will be mining taking place, coal placed on a conveyor belt into the 6 units into Gusile. That is not happening. But what is actually happening is that we are having some 700 to 800 trucks on a daily basis bringing in coal into the power station. So the work of the NLCC is critical, therefore, in this regard. The road to rail aspect as well is critical in that regard. So I would say the issue around Lotto Road is a broader challenge for us, but the interventions in the multiple streams which require it are actually being underwent, and the minister actually paid a visit to Moloto Road last year and interacted with the stakeholders, including the issues and the challenges arising from traditional leaders in their area. So we are also resolving issues parallel to that. So the whole ecosystem is receiving attention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Appreciate that. Honourable Mabebo, your turn.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Gene, sorry for you. No, his hand was up right at the beginning. I did recognize him, but let's give him a chance. We'll get back to you. Don't worry. There's plenty of time.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for that. My first question is this one. My first question to the department is that Yarona Bus Rapid Transport in Rustenburg is poorly managed and not functional. And then how does the department minimize the infighting of the taxi associations? And then that is mainly Sanco and NTA. What are the products provided as the consignment retail startup stock secured at wholesale prices? Is it the taxi spares or food and beverages commodities? That is my question. Thank you, Chairperson. Bye.
It's excellent time management, Honourable Mabebo. So I asked you first because I wanted the Honourable Makasini to see how well you handled the time. Deputy Minister, over to you.
Chair, let me just deal with the issue of taxi infighting, and I'm going to ask the EDDG to respond substantively on the issues around Rustenburg. But I'm sure you would have seen in the presentation that across the ecosystem, insofar as grants are concerned, is that we've got compliance challenges. And therefore, we got a fiduciary responsibility as the department to ensure that compliance is adhered to insofar as spend and intervention is concerned. Even where you may be seeing that things are going well in the next tranches in terms of how they apply, next phases, whatever, that also has to be compliant. So doing well in one stream does not automatically mean that your next phase in itself will be said to be well. It also has to comply. For example, City of Cape Town made a request that in our considered opinion required that they go back and do certain things and follow a particular process, and that is what we are doing. Now, on the key question of infighting, Chair, I think first and foremost, one must indicate that the leadership of Santaco and NTA have been working very well with the department in this current administration. We have met on a number of occasions on a broad spectrum of issues affecting the taxi industry, whether it's issues around permits, it's issues around the taxi recapitalisation program, and so on. So one, to establish just the foundation is that things are going well. However, that relationship has to be replicated at an operational level where the day-to-day lived material conditions of the people play out. Now, there is a challenge around safety and security in Gauteng, as you would have seen in recent weeks. There is a challenge in Northwest, amongst others. This is a security matter. It's not a transport matter per se. It requires the intervention of law enforcement of operations and agencies. Where there are elements of criminality, where there is violence, including but not limited to the killings of people, that requires the law enforcement agencies. As a proactive step, what we have done, as an example, in Gauteng, we have met with Santaco and the SAPS, with the Minister of Police, in fact, and ourselves, and his leadership, We have met with NTA. Gauteng continues to meet every Friday with both Santaco and NTA on the key issues that are problem. So the conflict resolution has to be sorted out. At the heart of it, it's permits, permits management, and therefore causing the clashes. So we need, as a Department of Transport, to regularize the permit system. We have started on a process to be able to do that, so that there is consistency throughout the country, so that the causes or alleged causes of the violence and tensions and infighting can be resolved. But where it's key is that our role ends there. And so we do believe that the interventions we are trying to foster with police will actually be able to help us. I can say that the taxi industry in itself doesn't like and want this violence. The leadership is very clear about the interventions that have to happen. It's also about taking the hard cash out of the ecosystem. You know, the bucket system that goes on. We are already at a point where we will be piloting the cashless system on the Sandal platform and with the assistance of Reserve Bank, so that passengers can be able to buy a card, load money on, tap, get into a taxi and move, and they will receive their monies properly through a system. So where we have identified the challenges, which these are the things that are violence-inducing, problem-inducing, we're intervening. But I want to reiterate that our enforcement chair only goes in so far as traffic law enforcement. The other aspect of it requires that, but we appreciate the cooperation we are receiving from the Department of Police and the Minister of Police in bringing the teams together. And then lastly is to say, obviously, professionalizing the taxi industry is a priority for us. It includes driver enhancement, business management. It's about ensuring an ecosystem in the taxi rank economy that is going to be able to beneficiate what comes with the taxi industry. We require a functional taxi industry because it commutes 80% of our passengers on a daily basis. So where we've identified that these things have got the potential to lead us to violence and they're within our purview and mandate, we are dealing with those with these multiple interventions. But the other side obviously requires law enforcement. Can I just ask then, ADG, that you just go on to the issues around Rustenburg, and then we will proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, GM. On Rustenburg, one of the challenges in Rustenburg is you've got a new team altogether. So the issue of institutional memory then comes into play. And it's one of the cities that we're planning a site visit. Remember I identified a number of cities where we've done assessments. So in this month, I think either end of this month or beginning of June, there is a Rustenburg site visit planned. And after the assessment, we will then make a recommendation in terms of what intervention should be made, whether we should be sending a team to then work with the small team that's there. In the municipality, largely, you've got a PMU that's running the city. Should I put it like that? You do have people, but as I'm saying, they are totally new people. And as part of the assessment, we'll also then be looking at how do we repurpose the current incomplete infrastructure. I'm sure you're aware of the stations that are incomplete, and so because we will not necessarily be putting in more money for them to complete those stations, but then how then do we repurpose whatever is there going forward? Okay, so it is receiving attention. Thank you, sir. On containers, do you want to?
Oh, thank you. What is in the container is space. Space.
Oh, space.
Space. What happens is when they put a container, normally they will engage the association and then look at vehicles that majority used. If it's predominantly Toyota, they will keep fast-moving space for the vehicle that is used by the associations. A smaller space, oils, and that can be used for maintenance and daily maintenance of the records.
Thank you very much. Honorable Makasini, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Chairperson. Yes, great. Chair, I just want to check the issue, when they make presentation on the issue of the lack of capacity, on the issue of the PMU, they were general, but they were not specific. Maybe we have some few municipalities that are doing well. If they can give us a report of which one are they having the serious challenges and which one are doing well, so that you don't generalize that generally the PMU in the country, in the municipality, they lack capacity. The issue of the forensic investigation, especially on Polokwane, Mangaung, and Nelson Mandela, can we be given a report, because those investigations have been there for a while. I think they are done now. If we can get a report, how far the issue of the investigation, especially of these three municipalities, so that we can make a follow up. The issue of you said on the way forward you want to remove the BRT to quality services. Have you started, or is just a plan that you are planning to do in all the municipality, or how far are you? Is this the idea that you are planning to do, or have you started, or is any municipality that have you started? The issue of the pilot in Free State, especially in Velkom, if we can be identifying area, is it in the traffic department? Because we know in Velkom we don't have a central office, unless it's a new thing. If we can just be directed, which area is that?
You done, Honorable Makasini? Thank you very much. Excellent time management. Well done. It's less than 3 minutes. You, Deputy Minister?
No, Chair, I think substantively the ADDG will respond on the issue of the forensic reports. Obviously they are there, but it's a key question of implementation on the recommendations. But maybe, Chair, because we asked the question about sustainability, and I think the broader question that we need to ask ourselves before sustainability is viability. And so we do need, as the example is being made of us going to Rustenburg for an assessment and an audit, the same was done in Mangaung. In fact, we went there and we staggered the rollout on key areas, recognizing the challenges that were there, to indicate that in another way we sort of are now finding ourselves having to babysit, which of course therefore is not sustainable, nor is it viable. So that is where we are, and I'm sure that the report of Rustenburg will come out once we have completed the audit. And then maybe, Chair, request you and your committee, if your oversight schedule allows, to prioritize, if you haven't already, to so that we can get a fresh set of eyes on this particular portfolio. But let me ask the ADDG, because the issue of the reports is there, and that she can speak substantively then to each one. But it's now a matter of the recommendations being taken forward and the recommendations implementation plan. ADDG?
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Minister. On the forensic investigations, Mangaung, the implementation plan was submitted to the department because the City Council adopted the report and referred the matter to the Hawks. We even met with the Hawks. And so that process basically is now under, the Hawks to further take it forward. Polokwane, a number of officials were dismissed, or they resigned before they could be dismissed. They are recovering the money from those officials, and also they are engaging with the business rescue practitioner for the company, for the OEM company that was supposed to be providing buses, to see how they recover money from that company as well. And then mentioned Nelson Mandela Bay. The investigation for Nelson Mandela Bay was carried out by Treasury. We have not had access to that report. The substantive DDG has requested that we get that report from Treasury because we wanted to find out whether the recommendations were fully implemented in line with what came out of the investigation. And then lastly, Rustenburg. Rustenburg officials were dismissed and the council basically adopted the recommendation. Some officials were dismissed, but what is not clear is, for example, on what are they putting in place, especially when it comes to infrastructure, findings to make sure that they don't repeat that. So it's something that we need to be, in contact with the city on. Those were the 4 ones, that I highlighted earlier on. And then on lack of capacity with the PMUs, Mangaung uses a PMU, and it's one where the PMU wasn't with appropriate skills. It was an infrastructure PMU with no experience in public transport operations or even just transport planning, critical work streams. They didn't have that capacity, and it doesn't make sense for us to then go in with an intervention team when there is a PMU. So we've indicated to the city that you need to stop, we need to find a way. Either you cancel the contract, but we're looking at options, because then even if you cancel a contract, there would be financial implications for the city. Ekurhuleni is also another city where you do have a PMU. It's more over-reliance on a PMU. I think largely they are bringing in people who are skilled, but it's more over-reliance on a PMU rather than having internal capacity within the municipality. The officials that are there are largely on contracts, 3-year contracts, and not permanent. And therefore, then that in itself, you then don't have stability, because then people are there and very soon they then leave to another municipality. Rustenburg has got a PMU, but largely they are trying to bring in more internal capacity that's also skilled. So we will be, overseeing that. Tshwane also has got a team internally, but that's supported by a huge PMU as well. And we are in discussions with the city to say you need to scale down and phase out PMUs. And also one issue that I didn't indicate is largely we are saying to municipalities, rather than relying on PMUs, you'd rather appoint people on contract, 3-year contract. They come in and then they work with municipality, rather than paying the amount of monies that we're paying for PMUs. And also Polokwane has got a PMU. They do have capacity internally, but then there's this over-reliance on PMU. So we're also trying to see how they phase out. Those are the main cities, with PMUs. Okay, and then largely move from BRT to high-quality services. So we're already implementing this. So you will find Polokwane has got just one dedicated stretch of lane. He's from Polokwane. And basically now we've said to them, going forward, it's high-quality buses. You're no longer implementing any BRT. So our target is your big metros like Cape Town, and Cape Town is a peculiar one because they've got budget, BFI, budget for infrastructure facility. They were able to secure that money to build infrastructure. So they've got a fully fledged BRT, but also going forward, we will be scaling down. Tshwane, also BRT, Johannesburg BRT, Ekurhuleni also, but the message is scale down. For example, don't just build for the sake of building. And also, even if you build a dedicated lane, you need to come to the National Department of Transport. You need to demonstrate that you do have congestion in that particular stretch of road. You're just not going to build a depot for the sake of building a depot, for example, or stations when you don't have numbers. Like Ekurhuleni, they've built stations, and around the stations you don't have the housing, and it just doesn't make sense why you do that. So it's things like that that we are now making sure that we move away from BRT to high quality bus systems. And high quality bus systems, it's largely services, stops or bus stops, and shelters, no big stations, no high intensive or over designed infrastructure items. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kaunda.
Thanks, Chair. Let me welcome the presentations and also greet DM. And indicate, Chair, that I won't be tempted to deal with eThekwini matters, as you have said, that there will be the whole day allocated for this purpose. But I just want to sponsor that in that invite, if you can have Accord. Accord has been a mediator between the bus operators and taxi operators and the city when all these negotiations were initiated. And the other one should be the operators themselves. They have bus council, which represent all the operators. They have Santaco also being divided into 5 taxi associations that are directly involved in this Go Durban. So if those can also be invited. Of course, National Treasury should be part of that meeting, Chair, with DOT, national and provincial DOT, as well as the municipality. So that is my sponsorship, Chair. Then the next issue, I think...
With that amount of people, we're looking at an online meeting at this stage, because I don't think they're all going to get to Cape Town. So, but we're going to, even if we have to do an online meeting, we'll do an online meeting.
Yes, but they are financially capable, Chair.
I'm more worried about the physical capability of Parliament to house so many stakeholders in one room.
No, virtual can be fine as well. Chair, the issue DM that concerns me are on the excuses that the department or government have been given to the taxi industry, that we are of course considering reviewing the subsidy in terms of transport, but I think it has taken long. We wish that by end of this term of office, we should reach a stage where this thing gets into implementation, rather than, because all the ministers, they kept on saying, no, we are reviewing, so we can't keep on reviewing. There must be a decision. The other one, Chair, is on e-hailing, which also poses a more strain in the transport industry. How far is the processing of the bill so that they also get regulated, because there is oversaturation of this operation. SA Taxi, you have made mention of SA Taxi. I don't know, Chair, if SA Taxi is also funded by government or it's just a private funding, because even during COVID-19, we thought that when government was giving relief to other operators, to sectors, they will also do the same. But banks were reluctant to do so. But taxi industry was suffering because they were not making profits, and they repossessed more, I'm sure, during that period. When Minister Nzimande was still the Minister of Transport, he took us to SA Taxi warehouses. There were many taxis repossessed there. So how are they operating? Are they supporting, or they act like any other financial institution? The last one, Chair, is on the rank management system, which I believe that if it can be enforced nationally, that all municipalities should implement it. It will reduce a number of challenges that the industry is faced with, including the issues of safety, including the issues of how those ranks are managed to reduce violence, as well as guaranteeing safety and cleanliness. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kaunda. DM, through you.
Thank you. Well, we will await your invitation to that very broad church meeting that has been proposed. And,
Can I just mention that the invitation has been sent out. We're waiting for a response from the Minister for availability.
okay, you will. Chair, I would want to, however, recommend that the meeting not be virtual. I think that the complexity of the issue, and secondly, the practicality of connectivity, as strong an man-to-man, Chair. So I think even if you take the meeting to Durban as the committee, I think that will be helpful, and we will be available. So I think we support of that, and we will present further on the issues. Chair, maybe just one issue on my side here is the taxi financing ecosystem in its entirety is problematic. 700,000 rand interest rate of 23% and so on. And you've got an installment that you have to pay. You are not making enough money per month to even meet the installment. So you're running a shortfall on a monthly basis. Yeah. So it's a revolving door of headaches. So what Minister has been looking into is that the tax recap fund in itself to be repurposed for the means of de-risking the whole financing ecosystem and regime currently employed within the taxi industry. Obviously, it requires certain changes within the manner in which the taxi industry operates. It requires driver enhancement. It requires a due adherence to traffic law. And so it's got a lot of factors involved. So ultimately, just on this issue, what my reaction would be that let us give opportunity to the work we're trying to do around the repurposing of the tax recap fund to deal with the risks that are involved. The tax industry in itself have raised this challenge, and what it has given rise to is a multiple reality of factors, but the major one is that they are not tapping into taxi recap because obviously it's voluntary, right? Because once I've settled a vehicle and I don't have an installment to pay, if you take my vehicle for scrapping, you give me a deposit, I get right back into the debt cycle, which is a reality I've just come out of. So it solves one problem, which is for us on the roads, but it doesn't solve the financial position of the operator. So we do have to look at this, and then, but at the same time, we cannot be laissez-faire on roadworthiness, right? So we have to continue on that key and fundamental question. And so one issue is that if you deal with the financial challenge, is that you prolong the life of a taxi. When you are chasing debt, you want to press hard on the vehicle, you're going to bring it to a wear and tear much quicker. So because you're trying to chase the installment, right? So that whole system, but we are working on trying to see, with the help of partners and the tax industry, on how the tax recapitalization can be repurposed for the purposes of de-risking. Then on the rent management system, I think that it continues to require priority attention, and that's why earlier on I was referring to the taxi rank economy, amongst others, so that we also ensure that health issues and considerations are done, particularly it's not just commuters. There's food involved here, catering for the purposes of eating takes place. So water and sanitation has to be looked at. There has to be issues around security. So once all those things may be achieved at a government level, we must not lose sight of now the inverse of it, where there is criminality and corruption within the taxi industry, the bucket system. There we have to rent for a taxi at a rank and so on and so forth, which then poses another risk. So it again goes to the professionalization of the taxi industry to enhance its own capabilities, leadership, and disciplines about how they operate and manage themselves. We were in the Eastern Cape with Minister just before the Easter weekend, and they in Ekabecha, and one of at a taxi rank, and there is an issue around sanitation, that the municipality had locked the ablution blocks and so on. It was a problem. And they said, we as the taxi industry do not have a problem managing the ablution facilities ourselves. We'll employ our own people. We've done it elsewhere. So what we are calling for is also a cooperation between local government and the taxi industry on some of the basic nuances of operations, where they are prepared to plug in, make an investment, because they realize themselves that a healthy and functional rank is in the best interest of their own commuters and their own live material conditions. So it was good to be able to see a cooperation or a partnership. I would loosely call it a private-public partnership, but also understanding that the ranks are in themselves also about the movement of people generally. So the ease and convenience that we need to build in is important. So we agree that the rank management system is a priority focus. Thank you. ADDG?
Oh, sorry, Chair. Should I start from scratch or for recording? Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. So I think on now we've requested our legal services to then request through the minister for the president to then promulgate the NLTA. Now that the regulations have been approved. Review of, I think on the subsidy, the DM touched on it, I think, in terms of the de-risking element. Let's say taxi, the repossession of vehicles. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think it was just a matter of, are they funded by government? No.
Okay.
They are private finance institutions.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Chair, so if I can just add, is that the minister has also met with the banks. So we have opened an engagement process on all these key issues to understand better some of the contributing factors, because some of them may be less reality and more perception on the part of the financing institution. So she's got a process that is currently underway, which includes engagements and consultations with the banks to sort of try and bring them to the table as well. So ours is really to say, because there's funds available, how do we use them to empower the industry as part of the reforms on subsidies that are being spoken about? Thanks.
Thank you, DM. Honorable Moimang.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to yourselves and my honorable members. Special word of greetings to the DM and the team. My apology, I started at 8 at Africa House. So that's why I started, so hence I was a bit late. Secondly, to appreciate the presentation, Chair, because it gives us a sense in terms of where we are going as government in relation to the integrated public transport program. I think the slide one that speaks to, no, slide 3 that speaks to the footprint of the IPTN program. Maybe it might be important just to probably raise some indicators that drives those programs that probably might lead to the exclusion of rural provinces like Northern Cape not to be in any of this, or maybe just areas that areas of work that you are doing in the province, so that at least one is given comfort. Yeah. The second one is to maybe get a sense in terms of slide 18 that deals with the grant review, the repurposing of the public transport grants, and there are areas of that you raise around consolidating, integrating public transport network. Maybe just to get a sense as to, is this the program for this medium term program or what? Then the third one in relation to the scrapping, going through the areas raised by the public protector in her remedial action. A referral is made to Toyota South Africa, a referral is made to importers, to builders, to manufacturers. And in the sequence of events or decisions, the registration at the registration point, at the licensing point, one get a sense that's where, as the Department of Transport, we were cornered. But more than that, also I think the regulators that set the standards, also to a larger degree, they are also isolated. But I think the question is penalties in relation to those manufacturers, to those builders, to those importers, even to South Africa, because at some point it brought the attention that this was happening. But in the bigger scheme of things, all these people, just because they are in the private sector, they are left untouched. And now government must then be able to act in relation to the remedial actions. But of course, maybe the mistake that we made was not to take the remedial actions on review, because I suspect probably could have probably had gone scot-free. I mean, I'm just looking at what pinned the Department of Transport against back against the war. Other than that, Chair, I'm happy and appreciating also the different programs that the department has presented, digitizing the containers and also the alternative fuel LPG. It might be important that because we do not only just have secondary cities, we do not only just have metros. We have districts where the bulk of the rural poor that necessarily would not have access and the benefits to these city programs that are mainly accessible to them. Maybe also have something just to be visible as the department across all our 51 districts. Of course, we know that the budgetary constraints are there, the austerity measures, but I think it's important that the good work that the government is doing
it must be spread across all those districts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Muimang. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Whip. I think you also would have noted in the presentation where we indicate that the Minister has directed that the public transport grants need to be overhauled. This is to ensure efficiency and effectiveness of the grants, and that the state and the taxpayer receives value for money where we invest. Now, a situation that arises is that this program is, amongst others, aimed at trying to decongest roads, and secondly, to ensure the longevity of our road infrastructure by easing not the pressure on the roads and the infrastructure, because obviously less volumes of traffic, but leveraging it with heightened levels of passenger commute. So it follows then that and other factors and economic activity, because the major challenge that we have is that, looking back, the spatial planning obviously of the country is not conducive for the working class, because it's got its origins in racial spatial planning. So you have to bring in workers from Umlazi to Durban. You have to bring in workers from Khayelitsha into Cape Town, and so on. So that is the reality. So it's a population management system, which therefore may not necessarily mean you can spill it over throughout the country. It's managing a particular situation, ecosystem. We can look at how we can enhance transportation in other provinces, in other cities, in other towns. But here specifically, the issue is that more broadly, we're trying to integrate to ensure connectivity, efficiency, and so on. Particularly, also understanding the challenge that we have of traffic in the morning and traffic in the afternoon. Because of this mass movement of people in and people out, compounded by 200 days of education transport every year. We also add children and teachers and so on in that ecosystem. So I mean, one thing in my imagination that I've always wanted to say is we must encourage carpooling as well of people. If you just look at our roads, Honorable Kaunda is all by himself, I'm by myself, the ADDG is by myself, in one car coming to the same meeting, 111. But we're coming here, coming from the same. So we need to, in the long term, say, how does this integration come in? Park and rides and so on. So I'm just saying it may not necessarily be a nationwide program, but it's one which must be concentrated and focused where you've got high levels of population density. Number two is on the issue of the panel vans, and the ADG the team will look further at this. But the other major intervention which we are really trying to get at is these vehicles, these panel vans that are under the radar and not coming in and so on. We're trying to strengthen INATIS and the licensing permits. I'm sure if any of the colleagues here have a vehicle, if you've not renewed, probably at your next renewal, the other thing that you will find is that we are closing the loopholes on outstanding fines. So before you get your disc, you got to pay your fines. So it's part of the ecosystem, closing the gaps, which should, in one way or the other, lead us to these panel vans that are under the radar and have not come in. One chief director in the department, ADDG, called me and she said, I had to pay my fines. I was like, oh, that's good. You must lead by example. You work for DOT. So it's also going to help with the implementation of ARTO. So the NHS platform is critical in that respect, Chair, and it will then lead us to these outstanding 1,000 plus odd outstanding panel vans. And then, of course, the remedial actions of the public protector continuously need to be implemented. ADDG.
I don't think from my side I've got anything else to add. I think maybe just one issue in terms of your rural districts. The department does have a program through the our rural transport component, and largely what we work with rural districts on is also a similar program on integrated public transport, but not at the same scale, where we provide support, technical support and funding in developing rural public transport plans. Every year we target 3 rural districts, and so yeah, so basically that's what I wanted to add, that it's not just we focusing on urban areas, but we do have rural district program as well. I think from my side that's all I wanted to add, Chair.
Thank you very much. There is a bit of time, and I always ask my questions last, so I actually want to just concentrate, because I've picked up quite a few of the questions have been around the Public Protector report. That's the 2019 report, I think. It was in 2019. Has the department actually submitted a full compliance report? Is there a full compliance report based on that Public Protector's report of 2019? So, has the department actually complied and submitted the report to indicate that compliance with the Public Protector? And has the Public Protector indicated that the satisfaction of that report, if it has been submitted? And I think some of the members also raised this, and I just want to get clarification. So we've got 1,266 illegal panel vans that's still on the road, and I heard you saying, Chief Director, that a mark will be placed against those vehicles on the INATA system. So when they come in for licensing, obviously the license won't be renewed. But considering that those vehicles are illegal and dangerous, and the original reason for scrapping them would have been because they are killing people, would it not then be better to actively go and find those vehicles, because you surely should have the information of those operators on INATIS and on the operating license administration system? So would it not be more proactive to just go out and find those vehicles and bring them in and scrap them, instead of letting them, instead of letting passive roadside enforcement do the work for you over what might be, it might be a year, but it might be 2 or 3 or 4 years, because some of them just drive around without licenses anyway. And then lastly, so with this, the Public Protector also pointed out that there was manipulation on the INATA system by officials. Now, I know you can just say to me, and I don't want to place words in your mouth, you're going to say to me, but those officials were licensing officials at municipalities or local, but what steps have your department taken to prevent manipulation by those officials of the actual INATA system, to stop the gaps where they find loopholes in the manipulation of that system, to enable them to then do criminal acts? And to your knowledge, have any of those officials anywhere been prosecuted that were implicated in the Public Protector's report? That's for me. Thank you very much.
ADDG.
Thanks, Chair. The two first questions on compliance. Yes, we submitted the report to the Public Protector to close the matter. It was submitted and the matter was regarded as closed. I remember the complainant came back, and then we even went with the then minister to the Public Protector, trying to say he was not happy with the report, and then the PP said the matter is closed. it should have taken it for review because we submitted what we have done as a department in terms of complying with the remedial action that specifically was directed to NDOT. So we submitted that report. 1,266, whether we can follow. We know, Chair. I think those vehicles will be all over the country. The only thing that we thought now would be prudent to do is the admin mark, so that you don't have a license to operate on the road. We will check whether through the RTFC, because following them will be, you go and find the person and find where they stay and go and take that vehicle to scrap. Whether that is possible or not, we can look at it. But we think the admin marking is working, Chair, because we have got several cases that we're now dealing with. As I said, if you have got two taxis, one was illegally converted and it's admin marked, you can't even pay for a license for the one that is working before you pay for that one. And that's where they come out. We've got several where they are now phoning that I can't license my vehicle which is now operating because the other one is admin marked. And then we say, deal with the admin mark first, bring it so that it can be taken off the system. So to a large extent, it is working. In terms of whether we can proactively try to locate those people and find them and scrap those vehicles, it's something that we can look at whether it is practically possible.
Chair, if I may, no, I think, Chair, more pointedly, we do need to have a proactive process on this matter, and I will implore on the team to interact with RTMC and the provincial, because as you rightly point out, we've got an outlook of where this vehicle ordinarily will be operating from on the basis of an address and contact details, so that we can bring this matter to a logical conclusion. It may just be a matter of devising an operational plan around how that will be done as part of the measures. So the markers are one, the roadblocks are one, where we also picking up on fraudulent discs, because they may be performing fraudulent discs. The cross-border road traffic transport agency has got a new series of vehicles and technological capabilities where they are scanning vehicles as they approach without even requiring a traffic officer to stop a vehicle, and therefore stop it on the basis that the system immediately flags that vehicle on approach. So fraudulent discs are part of the things that we are looking at. So I would say let's add another layer. Team will find a way, and where it's practically possible to do so, or where we pick up a higher concentration, or that these vehicles ordinarily are here, because you could find that they are on the roads continuing unlicensed and not coming in, and so on. But we will look at the broader ecosystem, Chairperson.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's what a little bit I know about the industry is that every permit has got a route, and that taxi has to operate on that route based on the permit's allowances. So it would be, and to get an operator's license, there's one thing to get a permit for the vehicle, but you have to get an operator's license, and the owner of 5 or 6 vehicles is the operator who holds that license, and that vehicle might be attached to that operator's business, so the operator could be traced very easily because there's a record of the application through the operating license system. Thank you. Honourable members, we do have a bit of time. There's 15 minutes, so I'll allow, if anybody wants to do a follow-up on their original questions and they're not sure if their question was answered correctly, without introducing new questions. So if there's any follow-ups from anybody?
No, Chair.
You had your hand up, so I'm prompting you. Thank you, Honourable Treza. We'll take that as no follow-up. Thank you very much, Honourable members. I would like to thank the department and our Deputy Minister. Thank you very much for making the effort to attend this meeting, and thank you for the work that you are doing. We are fully aware that it's It's really difficult in an environment that's informal. When we talk about the taxi industry, there's some green shoots. I see the automated fare collection system that might allow some sort of tax collection so that there's more money available in the pot to create all these things that you want to create for the industry to make it better. So on behalf of our committee, we'd like to thank you for your attendance. You are welcome to take your leave. We are just going to do some administration with regards to previous minutes, unless there's anything else that you want to end up with on your behalf, on your department's behalf, Minister.
No,
Thank you.
Chair, it's true. Thank you, and I hope that also the apology of the Minister was recorded. She is currently abroad on official business with the Acting Director General, but we want to thank you very much for this opportunity, and I would want to believe that other matters will be clarified when we deliver the policy statement within what do I call, when we come for the policy statement in July, August. Otherwise, Chairperson, thank you very much and take care, and God bless. Thank you, ADDG and Chief Director. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, we have just one bit of homework to do. It's the minutes of the previous meeting we had on the 16th of April. The minutes was circulated to you beforehand. It was dated on the 16th of April. It was the consideration of the C list on the Marine Oil Pollution Preparedness Response and Cooperation Bill, and then also the workshop that we had with the Auditor General. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Okay, and there's two sets of minutes.
No. I sent a correction email on this one.
What do you want me to do with this?
No, this one is.
Don't confuse me now, I'm busy with something.
Yeah, I'm giving you the correct.
So let us, is it the 16th of April, huh? There was a correction sent. The first one was sent was the 14th of...
No, the 14th of May, that's the correct one.
Okay, is that the correct one? So we shouldn't be dealing with the 16th of April.
No,
Right, give me the 14th of May. I apologize, honourable members. I had the wrong one. The date was the 14th of May. It was the briefing by the IDT on its audit findings for the 2023-24 financial year and the identification and resolution of matters with the Auditor General. So that's the correct one, the 14th of May. My apologies. Page 1, attendance by committee members. Are there any corrections there? Thank you. Page 2. Opening, apologies, the proceedings. Page 3, the committee deliberations. Thank you. Page 4, deliberations continued, considerations of adoption of minutes at the previous meeting, update on the international study tour, and then the adjournment. No corrections. Honourable members, thank you very much. Can I have a proposer for that set of minutes, please? Honourable Skirkogel, thank you very much. Seconded by Honourable Nzimande. Honourable members, thank you very much for your attendance at this meeting. I trust that you will all enjoy the lunch that Honourable Kahunda has arranged for us in the NCOP restaurant. All you have to do is just, you don't have to pay for the lunch, you just have to swipe this little card, and then they will provide you with something warm to eat. Thank you for your attendance. This meeting is now adjourned.